Hello everyone, a warm welcome. In today's video, we're talking about the extreme test of the very compact 18-volt cordless reciprocating saw DJR189. We'll find out what we can expect from this extremely compact 18-volt device and how it performs in real-world situations. That's what we'll be exploring in detail in today's video. Also worth mentioning, if you haven't seen the detailed review of this device yet, be sure to check it out. I'll link it for you in the top right corner on the info card. So let's dive right into the practical test. I'm curious to see how well this compact device really performs in action. For this, I'm using a large 5 ampere hour 18-volt battery, which of course I fully charged before the test to guarantee maximum power and endurance. Furthermore, I'm using 2 different blades, one for wood and one for metal, to be able to work with different materials. You can see it here in the video: plastic, several metal pipes, round steel, and of course a lot of wood, roof battens, wooden boards, logs, and the like, to thoroughly test the saw. I would say let's start with a simple task, a roof batten in connection with the wood blade, 55 by 35 millimeters. And as you can see, the compact roof batten doesn't pose a real problem for the Makita DJR189. That means the second cut here is already done. I would say one last cut, a third one, and it's clear that the roof batten is obviously not an issue for the device. Let's continue with the wooden board. Here too, as you can see, an extremely swift, extremely fast cut. It's, of course, relatively soft material. Still, you can see it here. The progress is really impressive, and that's why I would say let's move on to the next material. This means a significant challenge for this saw, the tree trunk, 120 millimeters in diameter. Normally, you would use a chainsaw for this. However, I'm curious to see how the reciprocating saw handles this. And as you can see, half of it is already done. Yes, that was it. The first cut has been made. I would say let's do a second one right away, and of course, this time it's in time-lapse for you. And there you go, the second cut on the tree trunk, 120 millimeters chopped off. It looks really good. The saw definitely struggled, but in terms of performance, it had no issues. That's why we're moving on to the next wooden board. In this case too, as you can see, a nice strong piece of wood where the chainsaw is definitely being put to the test. Also worth mentioning in this context, with this thick wooden board, I also tried to push the reciprocating saw to its limits. This means applying a bit more pressure on the device occasionally to see if the overload protection or something similar kicks in. As you can clearly see, no problem at all. That means the saw has really good power, and there doesn't seem to be any overload protection or anything similar that interrupts the work here. That means the first cut is almost done as well. That looks really good. Even with this thick wooden board, I would say let's stick to one cut. That's it. Let's move on to the next material, a PVC pipe with a 30 millimeter diameter. In connection with the metal blade, obviously this poses no problem at all for this reciprocating saw. Yes, performance-wise, several cuts done within seconds. Looks good. Very nice. Let's move on to concrete, steel, 8 millimeter diameter. Now it gets interesting. How long does the reciprocating saw need for this? The first cut's already done. Let's do a second cut and a third right after. Very nice. The third cut is done as well. Let's move on to the square tube, 30 by 30 millimeters, with the metal blade. Also a good challenge for this reciprocating saw. However, as you can see, the first cut is almost done as well. In terms of performance, the saw is really well equipped for its compact size. There's nothing to complain about in that regard. And the last cut is done as well. Now we're moving on to the round steel, 25mm diameter. Typically a job for an angle grinder. However, stay tuned to see if the reciprocating saw, in conjunction with the metal blade, can cut through the round steel as well. In terms of handling, I also tried to apply a bit more pressure occasionally to see if the overload protection would kick in. But as you can see here, no overload protection, no drop in performance or anything like that. The reciprocating saw also keeps vibrations to a minimum. And in terms of handling, in my opinion, it's quite comfortable due to the additional handle. And that concludes our testing here. The final cut in the metal is done, and now let's move on to the endurance test on this square timber. Let's see how many cuts the reciprocating saw can make with the wood blade in this endurance test to truly assess the battery level after this test. So far, so good. I would say that's enough for the stress test of the small Makita DJR189, as we've just seen in detail. The device has no problem with the square timber, no overload protection triggered throughout the test. The device, or the reciprocating saw, has become slightly warm at the front after the endurance test, but there are no high temperatures detected on the device. And now, the most important question, what about the battery? As mentioned, fully charged with 5 ampere hours before the test, and after the test, as you can see, still 2 out of 4 bars remaining. In summary, it can be said that the small new cordless reciprocating saw from Makita, the DJR189, is not only very compact and thus very handy, but also has enough power to work on various materials, whether wood or metal, and is relatively energy efficient. With a 5 ampere hour battery, numerous cuts are possible in practice at a very swift pace. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please show it with a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so that you don't miss any future videos. What do you think about this compact reciprocating saw? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and otherwise I'd say take care and I'll see you next time. Until then.